So you applied to some juried fine art fairs on something like Zapplication. You submitted the photos of your work, your booth shot, filled out everything, paid the $30 or $40 application fee. You may have submitted a dozen or more applications, and then you get the news back that you were not accepted. And so what are you supposed to do? How are you supposed to make money in your art business if you're not getting accepted to the events that will allow you to sell your work, right? It's like there's a gatekeeper standing in the way between you and your livelihood. I know I experienced this a lot during the first 5 years of trying to sell my art at art fairs professionally. I would apply to shows and get rejected time and time again. And it was a big problem for me because I needed to do 10 to 15 shows per year to be able to support myself as a full-time income financially. So that way I didn't have to work a part-time job or find some other way to make a living as an artist. And honestly, after being an artist for 10 years full-time, I still find this aspect of the art fair game to be really annoying. I hate that there are gatekeepers standing in the way between me and my living. But that's the nature of the game. You just have to play it if you want to sell at fine art fairs. But in this video, I want to share some things that you can do if you don't get accepted to the art fairs, so that way you can still make good money. Because using these techniques, I made 6 figures several years when I didn't get accepted to a single fine art fair. So just because you don't get in and the gatekeepers say your artwork isn't good enough, or maybe it's just because they had other artists they already accepted that were in the same genre or subject matter as your work. So it doesn't necessarily mean your art isn't good, but your art wasn't a good fit for their event that year. It's okay because you can still make a lot of money selling at in-person events. And here's what I did. First, you want to look up the list of the top 200 craft fairs in something called the Sunshine Artist magazine. I have linked it in the description. But they list every year the top art fairs and craft fairs all across the United States. Why this is good is that other artists are reviewing these events. And if you do any of the events in this list, even the craft fairs, which are very easy to get into for fine artists, if you do any of these events, you're going to make good sales. Now at the craft fairs, you do have to sell lower priced work. You can't have $2,000 or $3,000 paintings at a craft fair and expect it to sell. But you can have $20 art prints, even $30 art prints, and sell them well at a craft fair. So you just want to keep in mind, if you're going to do craft fairs, which is what I did to make that 6 figures, then you just want to make sure that you have lower priced items, and you can have a few higher priced items as well. I would sell $300 and $400 pieces at craft fairs fairly often as well, but anything above that was very hard to sell. And sometimes the people, if they saw something that was $1,000 in my booth, they would act like I thought too much of myself and just kind of walk off and not purchase and be kind of angry or mad at me, say really mean things. So you have to realize going into it that if you take expensive work to a craft fair, you might get heckled a little bit by the people who are going to the event. But if you just take things that are under $500 and have plenty of $20 items, you can sell really well as a fine artist at a craft fair. And I want to emphasize that you should focus on the craft fairs that are listed in the top 200 list of Sunshine Artist magazine, because these are going to earn you the most money. Not all craft fairs are created equal. If it's a craft fair that your church is hosting, or maybe your high school is hosting over Christmas time, like in the gymnasium or something, it's probably not going to get you the level of sales that you would get at a really high-end, high-traffic craft fair that's going to have 50 to 100,000 people in attendance, because that's the ones that you want to look for, not the little shows that have 500 people attending. You're not going to make very much money there, whether you're selling fine art or crafts or anything else, because there just aren't enough people attending. You want to set your sights really high and find the craft fairs that have a lot of people going to them. And thinking about the number of people that are attending an event, you want to keep your sights set out for any event, whether it's a music festival or a food festival, any kind of event where they're going to be pulling in 50,000 people or more, because any of those events can be good to go sell your artwork at if they're selling vendor booths at them, and typically they are. So this means that you can do Comic-Cons, any type of home and garden event in a convention center. You just want to keep in mind that you want to find events where the booth fee is rather low. Some of these events can have $2,000 or $3,000 booth fees, and that won't be good for an artist. You want to have a booth fee around $500 or $600 or less, price, hopefully, if you can, especially if the event's not specifically geared towards selling art. Now, if it's an art selling event, then you can pay a $600 or $700, even an $800 booth fee, and sometimes really come out on it because everybody going to the event as attendees are looking for art. But if you are doing, let's say, a Comic-Con in a convention center and you're taking your art to it, you might not sell as well, so you don't want to pay an $800 or $900 booth fee. If you can do something like that for less than $200 booth fee, then you'll probably be profitable. And when thinking about casting a broad net to find events to go to that have large numbers of people, it's also best if you can try to match the target audience, the target buyers of your work with that event. For example, I sell animal art, so selling my work at a gun show would probably not sell me very much work, especially considering my work has a lot of pastel colors. It appeals to women and families with children, people who might be interested in psychedelics because of the color scheme, not people who are interested in wearing camo and hunting and owning guns and all of that. Now, if I were a wildlife artist that painted more realistic work, those people at the gun show might be a perfect match for my target audience. So you can see here there's some nuances within this. So you have to understand your type of work, your art buyers, and where your work will fit in. And when you find those events where there are large numbers of attendees and some of them, or at least a good portion of them, will be your target market, then you found the perfect place to try selling your work. That is not a fine art fair, that has no gatekeeper standing in the way between you and making a living. Another thing you should do while you're trying to sell your work in person is sell online. Now, this can be done in a variety of different ways. You can sell your art on marketplaces like Etsy or eBay or Amazon Handmade. You can also sell your work on your own website. Personally, I like to use Shopify, but you can use any site builder out there to make a website as long as you're able to sell your artwork on there. And you want to be able to attract the customers from these in-person events and get them to maybe subscribe to an email newsletter so that way you can sell to them later online. And if you want some more details about boosting your online business alongside selling at art fairs, I have an entire video that really goes deep into it. It's going to help you. You can check that out here. All right, well, thank you so much for watching. See you next time.